Okay, we're going to get started here. Can you hear me? Welcome, welcome, Marcy. See if anybody else comes in here. Just let me know if you can hear me. Type in that chat area. Say, yes, I can hear you. All right, good morning. Thanks for coming in today. My name is April Biss. I will give my intro here in a second, but this is DES243 Layout and Design. This is the new mod. So hopefully you're ready to get started. This is a great class. I love teaching this class because this is basically what I've done in my professional background. I did a lot of publication design and I have about 20 years experience in the field. So I love, 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 love teaching this class, and I know you guys will enjoy it. So it's definitely a lot of work, but it's it's something that I think you guys will definitely enjoy. And what's really nice about this class, it's a cumulative project that you'll be working on. So we'll be building upon this going forward. Welcome, Christina. Just got started here. All right, so let's go forward. Again, my name is April Biss. You can just call me April, that's fine. Start the introductions. Just a little bit about me. I'm from Pittsburgh, PA. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in graphic design and also a master's degree. Yeah, I know. I saw your message to me. Good morning. I have about, like I said, 20 years working experience in the design industry. Actually, I have about 7 years, and I should change the slide here, 7 years teaching in higher ed. I've been working for IU for about 7 years now. It's kind of crazy. It just goes by so quick. But I still do practice. I have freelance projects that I still work on. Welcome, DeAndre. So I still kind of balance practice and teaching, which I think is nice. At this point of my career, it's nice to kind of give back to you guys. I have a 5-year-old daughter that goes to kindergarten now. Her name's Amelia May. She is the light of my life. And I have a puppy, Santino. He's our little wiener dog. We got him last Christmas, so he's our another little light in our life. You might hear him every once in a while if you've had me before. Christina might agree with this, hearing him barking in the background. I will try to silence him as much as I can. Just my work here, you can see on the behance.net link. He's a little guy. He's only like 11 pounds, but he thinks he's like, bigger than that, of course. It's always nice to see what your instructors are working on. So that's my, like a pit bull. That's my link to my projects. All right, so let me hear a little bit about you. I know some of you have had before, but you might not know each other. Don't forget to, you should be posting into your intro for this class, even though you may be in the program for more, it's not your first time in the program. It might be the first time you guys ever met each other. So definitely don't forget to post in your intros. Tell me a little bit about the state that you're currently living and where you are in the program. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have another publisher looking for another book cover too, so I love doing those. Definitely very creative. So like I said, I'm in Pittsburgh. Is anybody else on the Eastern Standard Time Zone area? Marcy, you're in Utah? Okay. You're on the Eastern time. Okay, where are you at? Welcome, Marcy. Virginia, very nice. Beautiful, beautiful. I've only passed through Virginia going to Florida and North Carolina, but it's a beautiful place. Very, very cool. All right. So, we always kind of go by the Mountain Standard Time zones for deadlines, but it's nice to see where everybody is in regards to that. You're from Michigan. There you go. Awesome. And I'm going to sneeze here. I have to mute the mic. Thought I was going to sneeze. I just jinxed myself. All right. So very cool. Great job, Christina. Good luck going forward. And congrats on your associate's degree. So you're going on for your bachelor's, of course, before your master's. Yes. Very cool. All right. Yeah, so don't forget the intros again in Canvas. Yeah, you can't skip a degree, right? Wish we could, right? That'd be nice. Skip ahead. Don't forget that in your discussion area, if you go to your modules on the left-hand side here, yeah, you'll see kind of like what you see on the splash page, only there's a little bit more access links here, like your library links, your LinkedIn links. But I wanted to show you this because in the week 1 area, you have your introduce yourself, time is money. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Doesn't have to be a real long worded intro. Just read through this background and answer kind of what's your process, and this is in regards to dealing with roadblocks. Yeah. It's funny because, and I say this all the time, everybody thinks that creative people are never without ideas. They're always creative. They're always coming up with ideas. But that's not really we're all human. That's definitely far from the truth, especially when you're dealing with client work. You're not really, sometimes you can't be too picky on what you choose work-wise. But we do have roadblocks that come up. So what do you do that helps you get past that? And that's kind of what this intro is. Besides introducing yourself, answer those prompted questions. It's kind of nice to see what everybody does in their processes. And maybe you can think of ideas for other people to help them as well. Yeah, designers have roadblocks? What? Oh yeah, we definitely do. And that is and I always like to say, this is why you go through your design processes. If you go through your steps in design, the process steps, which is your design methodology, you won't have any issues. So that's kind of the beauty behind what designers do. We should be going through those processes. But let us know what your strategy is. And every week, and some of you guys don't realize this, that your actual week, if you go into Canvas, these are buttons, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. So they're active. You can actually click on them. They're hyperactive. And then you can see what our learning objectives are every week. So this is what you guys will be walking away from each week, learning. So these are the objectives for week 1. There's usually always an inspirational video in here that's short that you guys can watch. This one is for graphic design magazines. But basically the learning objectives for this week, you guys are going to be discussing how styles enable better design and a more efficient workflow, style sheets, for example. Identify and discuss the 3 strategies to create an efficient workflow to create a multi-page project. Create a design strategy for a multi-page layout utilizing principles of design. Those principles, we always go back to those. Differentiate between effective and ineffective grid use when communicating with the end user, and apply a well-defined grid structure to enhance visual hierarchy. So it's our jobs as designers to organize the information. And in publication design, it's super important, just like in web design, to visually organize your information so it's easy to read and follow. It's our jobs to make that happen. So that is why it's super important to always go back to your principles of design. Make sure, alignment is happening. You're paying attention to proximity. You're paying attention to contrast, repetition, all that stuff. So, always reflect back to that, because you're going to be given a lot of information for this publication. It's going to be an 8-page publication that you're going to be laying out in this class. You're not all going to do it at one time in 1 week. This is going to be a cumulative project, like I said, so it'll be 4 weeks. You will be building upon this. But you're going to be given a lot of information, not just text, but imagery. And it's up to you to design in a way that's easy to read. There's nothing kind of sticking out where it disrupts flow of reading. This is your job to visually make it creative and easy to follow. So with that being said, there's also ways to do this efficiently, and that's using style sheets. And that's a way to help you because, I've been in time crunches where we're doing 100-page magazine, and those style sheets come in super handy when you don't have time to change everything. So style sheets really help with efficiency, and we're going to be looking into that as well. But I love teaching this class because I think this is just a really cool project that you guys can definitely come away from and have for a possible future portfolio project that's really strong. Yeah, style sheets are awesome. Sometimes it's a little tricky to learn how they work, but I'm here to help you guys. I'm not here to just say, well, this looks like this needs to be changed. I'm here to help you. So I want you guys to do good. If you do good, I do good. And I want you to learn through the process. Every week that we have deadlines, it's important to get that project in on time, especially in this class for this particular course, because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking the feedback that I give to you every week, and you're going to be revising your pages and then going forward with the next step of pages. So therefore, if you get behind, it's going to be like you're rushing it. Things will be missed. Quality of work won't be as great, obviously, because you're rushing. And I understand life happens. Trust me, I have it every day. I have life going on right now. It's like crazy. It's always something. And it's just something that we have to all kind of work together on. If you're having issues, reach out to me. I can be more flexible with you guys in terms of, okay, I can give you a little bit of a leeway if you can get it in at this time, but you have to be open. You can't just wait till like week 4 to talk to me about it. So keep those communication lines open. Oh, thanks, Christina. You're so nice. Okay, so this week you will basically begin production on your magazine. I think you guys will have a lot of fun with this. Starting with creating a design strategy, utilizing the principles of design, so CRAP, remember all those principles, as well as designing a grid structure that will lay the foundation for preparing the editorial article for placement in the magazine. So you guys are going to be designing for this week. You're going to pick the magazine of choice that I'll show you in a minute here. And then you are going to be designing the first 2 pages, and I will do a step-by-step demo. Before we get into that, I just want to make a few little house cleaning type things that we have to go through here, just so we're all clear. And you guys all in here that are in here now live know where to go for the live lecture because you're here. But if you're unfamiliar with that, just go to the live lecture. This is where you can meet us live here. This is the link you'll be clicking on. And then when this is done, I will process the video and have the recording here. It usually takes about 30 some minutes after the lecture is over to be posted. So just kind of keep an eye on that. So if you can't make the lectures, they're not mandatory. I would highly recommend watching them because it'll save you time and energy and frustration because I do go step by step on every project, kind of how I would approach it. And it will save a lot of time if you're kind of stuck somewhere. What I typically do first day of lecture, because we'll have 2 lectures. One is today on Monday, and the other one's tomorrow, same time. I like to break it up. So we'll do discussion, first lecture, assignment, demo for the second thing that we do during this actual lecture. And then tomorrow for lecture 2, I'll go over your assessment. And then we can open it up if we have time for any type of questions, any type of, you can share your screen if you need extra help. But that's kind of how I do my classes. What else? Oh, just if you need to contact me, I have my iPhone on me all the time. This is me. This is where you would find me, just about your instructor information. Here's my email address. You can email me first, text me, whatever you want to do. You can even call me. I'll try to get back to you, obviously, within the 24-hour period. I'm usually pretty good with that. If not, there's something wrong. But that's where you would find my information. Don't forget, your readings and videos section is really important every week, because you have required articles and possible videos to watch. And these are all very helpful each week to what you're learning. So this week, for instance, it talks about managing assets with Creative Cloud libraries. Goes over your CC libraries, all the good stuff, workflow to create a multi-page document. 7 principles of design to, kind of refresh yourself. It also goes into showing LinkedIn Learning videos here, and they're all real short videos. I think 7 minutes is the longest. Kind of talking about different parts of software that you guys should be aware of as you're creating your multi-page documents. It all kind of, this is a nice supplement to, say if you're, you may not watch all of these videos, but say if you're having issues with like doing a grid, you can come back here and say, okay, I'm going to look at these videos and kind of get some help with that. So, I understand time is of essence, things are required, but if need be, you can always kind of revert to your videos for just, extra supplemental resources. Okay. What else? Daily checkpoints. We all know that's kind of the only way you guys can gain extra credit every day, and that's 5 points every day. Within 4 weeks, that really adds up. So definitely, take advantage of that. And it's a nice added supplement to this course. Shark resources is where, if you need extra help, library resources, all that good stuff is all in here. Writing Center, Student Success Center. If I'm not available to help you, you guys should all be aware of that. There's the library. There's also clubs and kinds of good stuff going on. Faculty, help desk, all your computer support. And then the course content list is just a nice, different type of a layout, just like we saw before, where it's showing you all the links to every week in a different way. Okay. Any questions so far? I know this is kind of like a little intro here. Go forward. Question for you guys, if you have no questions for me. In regards to your experience and how you feel comfort-wise in using InDesign, where would you fall along this number scale here? 1 is newbie, 2, some experience, 3, comfortable, 4, experience, 5, efficient. And be honest, you guys are here to learn the programs too. So if you're not real comfortable, no problem at all. That's why you're here. Okay, we got 3 and a 2. And this is just a good way. I mean, I kind of go through the fundamentals. Yeah. And I do a little bit more of the experienced, I show you kind of more experience, higher level stuff in InDesign as well. So I kind of mix it up and blend it a little bit, because I know some of you guys have different levels of experience using InDesign. So just curious. So you guys are pretty much in the middle mark there. Good to know, good to know. Okay, so course overview. Upon successful completion of this course, you will be able to have a basic knowledge of page layout design and be able to produce print jobs using Adobe InDesign. Pretty exciting, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. Over the next 4 weeks, like I said, in the mod, you will create a multi-page magazine using InDesign, and you'll have a basic knowledge of page layout design. All right, so in today's lecture, just a little overview, we're going to talk about the 5 principles of graphic design that you may take for granted every day, things to think about. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of publication design. We'll review your discussion, and then we'll go right into your assignment overview and demo. All right, so just some things that, and I know as a professional designer too, I can take for granted every day. One of which is proximity. Proximity is a tough one, I think, with some people because, you know, we have so much information. We're trying to like put as much information. I think the client too likes to see the whole page covered sometimes. If it, like, for instance, if they want you to do an ad, they want to see that whole space covered up. Well, that's not always the best way to do it, right? It's not as effective, because if you have the whole space covered up and everything is emphasized and it's all running together, it's hard to read. Oh, Christine, I just read your chat there. Yeah, you'll have to kind of work through that. So proximity is a way to group similar like things together so that you have those visual pauses and you allow more balance in your layout so it's easier to read and follow. It's not all running together. So here's kind of a really interesting, more abstract way to look at it. Different ways to show proximity just using circles. On the top is the first word that it's showing, and on the bottom is the second word next to it after the slash. So you can see how simple shapes can show proximity. So with the unite, you can see all those circles are uniting. And those circles could be pictures. Those could be elements in your layout. Same as fragment. If you want to show a fragmented look, of course you would have it all scattered. The second one is order. You can obviously see an order about those, very aligned in a row. And then you see chaos at the bottom with the circles. The third one is equal. You can show equal in a straight line here, all aligned. And then you can show unequal with just one kind of out of order, out of place here. You can kind of see how this is being shown on this website here. On the left-hand side, it's unclear proximity between text and visuals. But on the right-hand side, there's space along a recognizable horizontal line. So it's like a little, it's definitely easier to follow in regards to the text with the visuals. Alignment is another thing too that we kind of take for granted sometimes. Alignment is ways that you can align different elements so that they don't stick out and they're just not floating around randomly on a page. You're creating order with your elements. So again, it's easier to follow and read and to view. Repetition is another big thing to think about when you're doing your pages for your magazine, because that's kind of what carries you through. Say if you're working on an article that is 4 pages long and it gets separated by other ads in between. So it's almost like to be continued. Yeah, you have to make sure that, oh, okay, this is the article I was looking at. How do you know that? Well, there's repetition of maybe the same color, the same style of elements going on. You can just tell that it belongs, it unifies with the rest of the story, even if there's a break in between with different ads and articles. Repetition just helps you, the flow of the articles together if you're talking about pages within a magazine. Contrast is a big one that we kind of take for granted too. I mean, look at these 2 designs. They're all very successful, but the one on the right is just a little bit more successful because it's using color and contrast to pull things out so that you see it first. And your eye goes right to where it should go first. So you're using contrast and color to allow the viewer to know where to look first. It's all about hierarchical order, and that is one way that you can do that is through color. Things to think about, and I have this a lot, even in the upper level courses. A lot of students don't really kind of think about contrast in regards to body copy. You want to make sure not only is the contrast there, so on the top you see the left side are like the no-nos and the right are the do's, and they follow along here horizontally. So you want to have enough contrast. If you're using a color block, you want to make sure that block isn't the same hue as your text color, or else it's going to get lost. The second example is if you're using a complementary color like green in the background and red for type, you're creating this vibration with the color. It's just too much on the eye to see. Yes. So you want to make sure you're not dealing with complementary colors when you're doing a block of text with copy. The bottom is the same thing, only you're using a color with a similar hue gray, not enough contrast either. So just make sure you're kind of, keeping that in check when you're doing special things within your articles. And again, it's just all the going back to the principles, right? Contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity, just things that kind of think about that sometimes we forget and we have to go back to because, maybe we just weren't thinking and we were focused on something else. There are also elements of design that we use to create a successful layout. Line, color, texture, size, space, value, shape. So there's things that we can make, we can use the elements of design to make it more effective. All right, the do's and don'ts. We talk about these, so we do the do's and we don't do the don'ts. So in publication design in particular, we're going to take a look at what to do and what not to do, so you guys can remember this and not do what they're saying not to do, and you're following the rules. So keep text clean, okay? This is obviously common knowledge here. Don't use more than 3 fonts on a given spread, for example. And that's why it's always nice to do a font family, because you'll have that font, but then you'll have different emphasis of that font. So for instance, like Helvetica New has probably like 20 font families underneath it. So there's like bold and condensed and italic and all that stuff. So you can keep it consistent, but you can use different emphasis to pull certain things out, make it more emphasized. Don't use body text below 10 points. That's just, something to think about. It gets too small. If you're working on a magazine it's geared towards more of an older audience, say like ARP, you want to go even above that. You want to go about 12 point. But typically you don't go up to 12 point for regular magazines. It's just a little bit too big. So just something to think about. Yes, that's a good idea, Christina. Yep, the posters. I can definitely do that. Don't reverse text out of pale color blocks. We just saw that. Just kind of be aware of readability of text, especially with body copy. Keep readers moving. You want to really make sure that the flow of text and imagery is just right, and the imagery isn't getting away of the text. Oh yeah, Christina, you're getting ahead of me here. Yes, that's a good. I'll definitely talk about that. Oh, she wants me to tell a story that I told Christina. A little sneak. Went out and let's listen to the first lecture here of a past lecture that I did. So she's already ahead of everybody. But as far as like stops and visuals, and this can be even like, if you don't have something aligned properly, that can be something that sticks out and stops the reader from kind of reading in a smooth way. So we want to make sure that we have a grid structure set up and everything's aligned properly, or else readers might stop. It's like having an image in the middle of text and it kind of making the text boxes too thin in certain areas where it makes it harder to read. That's kind of what I'm talking about there. Don't let images create walls that stall readers' progress, and don't cram too much text on a page that it becomes difficult to navigate. Instead, break information into digestible chunks with subheadings, bullet lists, and graphics. When you open up a magazine, sometimes when you don't maybe it's like a subconscious thing, Did you ever open up a magazine? It's a double page spread article and it's just all heavy copy. There's no images. Okay, do you see yourself reading that, or do you become visually overwhelmed and you just skip over it? You probably skip it unless you're really kind of invested in finding out something that you were reading about. You usually skip it, right? Yeah. Because there's nothing really kind of holding you there. You're overwhelmed by so much copy. It's just like, eh. So you really want to think about the balance that you create that holds the reader's attention and allows them to be invested in it without being overwhelmed. Now, Christina brought up my story about and I'm going to skip back here about the text. Let me go back here to this slide. So I have a story. When I was working for an ad agency in Ohio, I worked with, I think it was a bank, and I did an ad for them. And the ad, there was a little like dark block of, and newspaper, this is for a newspaper. It's black and white for the most part, unless you pay for color. But we were doing a black and white ad. And in the box of the ad that I did, I had this dark black box at the bottom with fine, the fine print that you don't really read, but it has to be there. So I had that in there, and it looked good on my screen. I had real thin font that I chose. I think it was like Arial or something light, and it was white type over this dark black box. Well, it looked fine on my screen, but guess what happened when it printed on newspaper? Christina, don't give it away. Do you think it was readable? No, that's funny, Christina. No, it's not readable because you know what happens with newspaper print? Think about the paper that's being used. It's real porous, right? That means it sucks up that ink. So what happens is you really have to think about the paper too. And I wasn't thinking about any of that. It might have been okay if it was on like a coated paper that wasn't like a newsprint, but the newsprint sucked that ink up to the point where it wasn't even readable. Like that thin font in white over top of that black box became like gibberish. You couldn't even see it because the ink spread, and the fact that it was small type, it was thin, and it was in a black box, it was really hard to read. So there's certain things you have to think about, not just, not just as far as readability goes in as far as the size, but also how it's going to be viewed, the actual printed paper that's going to be printed on if it is. Okay, so that's my story. You want to make sure you foster engagement. You really want to make sure that you will, I look at articles that have things that kind of pop out because I go right to them. And then if that draws me in, I read more about the article. So having like highlighted key facts is always good. Enhancing navigation. So, maybe it's something that you're telling the viewer to go to a certain page. You'll see more of this. Fostering interactivity, and that's one of the ways that you can do that too. If you're continuing the pages and you have a prompt to do so, that enhances navigation. Be very careful with color, like we just said. A 10% tint block behind pull quotes, for example, or decorative text elements is plenty. Just know that anytime that you print anything on paper, if you have anything transparent, like say if you're using a 10 or 12% of a certain color, so it's it looks light, okay, and you have type over top of it or whatever on top of it, when you go to print it, it's always going to print darker than what you see on the screen. It's just a fact. And it's probably a good, I would say like 5 to 8% darker. So that's why if you use any type of like a color block behind type, for instance, always go with like a 10% color transparent type of I guess opacity is what I'm going for, because it'll always print like a 15%. It'll always be darker. So kind of be cautious of that. If you're reversing text out of color black, be sure the type is large enough to be knocked out, like we just talked about, so you're not having issues with that. So just some things to think about when you're designing your pages, and also the design principles to kind of be refreshed so that we know that we're starting off right for this project. Any questions about any of that? No? Okay, let's go right into your discussion. Did anybody start the discussions? Just curious. Maybe just waiting for the lecture, but not yet. Okay. So basically what this covers is they're talking about like workflow in regards to that, you know, how to kind of streamline your workflow so that you have a strategy of working efficiently and you can manage things. So it's talking about Adobe Bridge and certain apps that will help with that as far as style sheets is concerned too. So it talks about paragraph styles and character styles, which we'll go into today as well, and how to use those. But go ahead and read through that. I'm going to skip down here to the prompt. So basically what this is going to have you discuss in this discussion is it's basically going to talk about your multi-page layout, how to streamline your creative workflow process to enable faster and more consistent multi-page document. So go ahead and read through this, and then it goes down to where it actually poses a question here. So many of us have been there. We met with a client, plan our strategies, set a project deadline, and everyone is happy. Such is the case with Billy Jones, a very talented and creative freelance designer who has met with and landed a new client. The client has asked him to prepare and produce a multi-page trade publication with a very tight deadline. Billy agrees to meet the scheduled demands of his client and will begin the layout the following morning. It's now late the following afternoon, and Billy has found the design is time-consuming and challenging, putting him into unknown territory in jeopardy of missing his deadline. The next day, the client called and was unable to reach Billy until later that afternoon. When they finally spoke, Billy said, "Mr. Smith, I'm sorry, this project is taking much longer than expected, but I'll have it completed by tomorrow morning, guaranteed." The excuses went on for several days. Eventually, it turned into a partially completed project, and he told his client, I've done what I can. Have a look, and please let me know what you think. Feel free to make any changes you believe are necessary. In the end, what was promised by the designer in 24 hours took 1 week to complete. So what you're going to be doing is researching the advantages of these particular apps, software applications. So Adobe Bridge, Adobe Creative Cloud Libraries, which you have now, InDesign Style Sheets, which we'll be working in, how each is used to create efficient workflow to improve production. So you're going to be researching this. You might already know, but if you don't, this is a good time to start. From what you have learned, you're going to discuss 2 strategies you would recommend Billy Jones use to improve his workflow and speed up his design tasks, allowing him to meet his client's tight deadline. Different strategies can achieve the same results, and all may seem like viable solutions. Look further into the scenario of how and why Billy's design process prevented him from delivering high quality work for his client. So you might want to research workflow strategies used to navigate, share, organize, collaborate images, videos, and manage other creative assets when creating a multi-page document. So you're going to be kind of researching about how these kind of allow you to streamline your workflow, within projects. So you're going to research about these particular apps and style sheets. And then you can also talk about how he went about talking to his client too. It's not just you know, I want you guys to talk about the advantages of these apps and style sheets, but you can also talk about his whole strategy and how he communicated with his client. If we know the information, do we still have to put a citation? Well, if you know it, you probably got it from somewhere. So if you're forming it in your own words, that's fine. But if you are taking it out of context with, you know, from a citation, obviously you would need to cite it. There's examples in here too. So if you click on these examples, sample 1 and sample 2, you can kind of see how these particular students approached their discussion. Let me make this a little smaller here. Okay, so they, you know, kind of started it out. They do have a citation in here. You never really want to end a discussion or a paper with a citation, so it's good that this particular student ended up summing it up in their own words, because if you do that, you know, obviously it's just kind of like you're copying and pasting in there. You're not using your critical thinking skills. So why did you post the citation? What about it makes it important to your perspective? And go ahead and write that after your citation so that you're summing it up in your own words and not just copying and pasting citations in there. So you're talking about strategies, and then here's the reference down here. So it doesn't have to be super long. Obviously, it has to hit the requirements for the discussion, but just kind of make sure you're providing a citation in there, and all of the reply requirements are being followed too for possible full credit. Any questions about any of that? Is everybody pretty clear on what you need to do for that? No question? Okay. Very, very good. So yeah, go ahead and when you post your initial post, don't forget to respond to 2 peers and, you know, kind of see what their perspective is on it. Maybe you have other ideas, maybe you see things differently, challenge each other, build on each other, and kind of, and that's kind of how you learn from each other too. No, you're good. No, you're good. Yeah, definitely. Don't be sorry. Chime in anytime. Okay, so that we have a little bit of a break, we'll refresh your minds. Go ahead and grab some coffee, pop whatever sugar is close to you. And we're gonna take a 5-minute break so that you guys can just kind of digest what we just talked about. And then we can start into your assignment 1. I'll review your assignment 1. We'll go over what needs to be done and submitted. And then I'll do a step-by-step demo showing you how I would attempt your first project here. Does that sound good? All right, so meet me back here in about 5 minutes and we'll go forward with that. Okay, guys. Okay, can you guys hear me? Looks like Christina's rallying the troops here. All right. There is definitely a lot of help. Not just, I mean, obviously, I'm the first point of contact, but we do have a lot of help if you guys ever need it. All right. So let's take a look at your first assignment here. I won't take up any more extra time here. Let's go right into, oh, I lost our actual class here. Hold on 1 second. I got kicked out of our classroom and to log back in. Very nice. All right, so we're going to go to your assignment 1, and basically what you guys are going to be, and I won't read all through this. You guys read. This is all about your principles of design. I'm going to go all the way down here. So you're going to be starting and choosing a client here. I'm going to read through the prompt. So welcome to the exciting world of publishing. Acme Media Group has hired you to become the newest member of their creative team. For the next 4 weeks, you will be responsible for preparing and producing the visual layout of 8-page magazine using the power of InDesign. This week, you will begin production on your magazine, starting with creating a design strategy utilizing the principles of design, as well as applying a well-defined grid structure that will lay down the foundation for preparing the editorial article for placement in the magazine. Choose one of the magazine options below, and then each of these have their own source files included. So you'll have, and this is like a good example of how you will receive a typical project in the real world, especially in publication design. I worked for several publications in my life. I worked for a magazine called Engine Builder. I worked for Style Magazine. I worked for Tampa Bay Wellness. I worked for a luxury magazine in Naples, Florida. So I worked for several. So this is kind of like a real world situation where you're given these file sources from the client or publisher or whoever's kind of giving you the information. If it's like a magazine that you've worked on, you probably already have a logo, which is a magazine flag, for example, the magazine name. But you should be given a list of articles that will go into that particular magazine, table of contents, editorial and feature article, as well as imagery. So what you have to choose from are these 3 here. So Remodeler Magazine, it offers expert advice on home improvement from design to building to remodeling every home in the house. The Main Ingredient, this is another one, focuses on fit, healthy eating habits, offering new cooking recipes that anyone can prepare, and covers issues relating to making best food decisions. And then the Fit Me magazine is the other option, and it's a magazine focusing on health and exercise for the future, including diet advice, workout, and cutting edge fitness info. So each of these have a hyperlink. So let's say if you wanted to do the Remodeler magazine, you can just click right on it, and it's going to give you the downloadable access to the zipped folder. And I'll show you what that looks like here. And I just downloaded this. So if you click on that, it automatically downloads. And then you have your list of articles. So you have your editorial article as a Word file, the feature article, list of articles, and table of contents. That's what TOC stands for. Now, you're not going to be doing all of these for week 1, just an FYI, but you want to download all of this for the 4 weeks that we're going to be doing this class. The barcode that we'll work on in week 4, because we're not going to do the cover until week 4. Images, and they'll kind of specify in the folders for editorial, which we'll be working on today. And there's feature. And then flags, which the flags are what goes on top, like a masthead, which is the name, the logo of your magazine. So each of those magazines have a downloadable zip folder of what I just showed you. So choose which one that interests you the most. If you want to challenge yourself with one that you're not too familiar with, that's fine too. But I think sometimes when we're more interested and kind of know more about the topic, we do better. So it's completely up to you. But go ahead and look through each of those if you're unsure, like Christina said, she's not sure. Go through all of those, read the articles, look at the mastheads, look at the imagery, look at all the articles listed, and then make your decision. That may help you sway either way. All right, so the instructions then, let me zoom in here so you can see them a little bit better. When you decide on a client, you're going to create all 8 pages for your project 1, but you're only going to be designing 2, okay? You're only going to be designing your editorial article, which is, it will be 2 pages. So the size of your pages are 8.5 by 11, portrait format with facing pages. I'll show you how to do that in a second. You're going to do a total of 8 pages. And article placement, that editorial article begins on page 2. So you want to ignore the cover page, obviously, and you want to go straight to page 2. IFC represents inside front cover. So allow space for the table of contents to be created in week 4. This is another thing that a lot of students forget about, so I'll kind of make note of that in my demonstration. You will determine how much room you will need for your table of contents and editorial based on your design ideas. So your editorial will start on page 2 and it'll continue on page 7. So only those 2 pages will you be designing for this particular assignment. Page 7 is your inside back cover. It continues your editorial article. You're going to create master pages. That's required. I'll show you how to start that. Define a well-defined grid structure to enhance visual hierarchy. You're going to add page numbers. We'll start out with page numbers too after we create our pages. Show you how to do that. Create paragraph styles. That's required for your title, your subheading, body copy, and then author byline. An author byline is basically who the article was written by. So you usually see their name by so-and-so. Use all copy provided for editorial. Use all images provided for the editorial. Additional images are not approved. You're going to apply the principles of design, so think about that always. And you're going to use linked text frames to connect editorial copy from page 2 to page 7. And I'll show you how to do that. When you're done, you're going to package your file and you're going to include a PDF in that packaged file. And I'll show you how to do that. Save your package folder as a zip, and then you'll just name it for submission. Any questions so far? I know we'll be kind of doing a little demo here, so. No questions. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll help you set this up. I'm gonna pick, and I think I did this, the Fit Me magazine, I believe I'm gonna do. I think I did that for my last demo here. So what I'm gonna do is first, before I do anything, is actually download this. So I'm gonna go ahead and download this folder. I'm gonna put it on my desktop, and then I'm gonna create a class folder. You guys should all be aware of how to organize your information. But I'm going to create a class folder, put this in my week 1 folder, and get ready to go here. Okay. Then I'm going to open up InDesign, and I'm going to create my pages. Okay, let me see if I can share this. Here we go. All right, so you guys, when you go to InDesign, you go File, New, and you just want to make sure this is 8.5 by 11. You want your facing pages checked because that's what allows you to have, it's almost like it's laying out magazine style. So you can see if you have 2 pages side by side, it'll show like a double page spread. It'll also have a cover and a back. Let me see if I can silence this. Hold on 1 second, guys. Let me quit out of here so you don't hear all those beeping. Okay. Okay, hold on 1 second, Christina. I just read your thing here. You want to put 8 pages here. Yeah, that's from my Microsoft Team app from other FPAs here. I apologize. You're going to start on page 1. Everything else should be good. You should have your top margins as a 1/2 inch. That's fine. Bleeds, you can set this up as 0.25. That's 1/8 of a bleed. If this little link is checked, it'll change all 4 of them, so they're all the same. The slug, you don't have to worry about. A slug is basically just printer information. Say if you want to add information for the printer to read, but it doesn't actually print, that's what that means. Okay, and then you can click OK. I'm going to lose your screen here for a second. Give me 1 second here. All right, and just an FYI, when you am I sharing my screen right here? I'm gonna share my desktop. You guys can see my whole. There we go. Up here on the very top hand corner where it says Essentials, make sure, I usually say Reset Essentials, and it'll reset it to, and you can set it to like typography, whatever you want. I'm just gonna select Essentials, and that'll give you just essentials for laying out your project. Now, when I zoom out, I can see that all 8 of my pages are here, starting with the cover. So basically, you guys are just worried about this page, which is page 2 and page 7. This is page 7, okay? Any questions about that, how I just did that? We're good to go. Okay. I'm going to show you now. Do you guys know what master pages are? That's the next thing. Okay, if you don't know, some people might not know, go to your window and choose pages if you can't see it on your screen. And this will bring up your pages, basically what I just saw, but you can navigate it by just clicking right on it. And right now I have my A master page is placed on all of these pages by default. So that means anytime I double click on my master, this is how you would get to your master page, just double click right up here. This is the left side and this is the right side. Anything I place on this right side or left side will be shown here. So let me show you what I mean. I'm gonna click on the left side here. If you're not familiar with master pages, I'm just gonna do something. Fill this circle here. See how you can see it now? I just placed it on the top left-hand corner of my master page, but it's applying it to all of my left side pages because that's where I have it on my master page. So if I were to move that, watch how it kind of moves on all of my pages. If I didn't want that to be repeated on all of my pages, say there's, maybe page 4 shouldn't have this big red dot, I would just click on where it says none and drag and drop it right over page 4. And then when I go to my pages, that'll be blank on page 4. Now, master pages are good for any repeating elements that you don't want to have to worry about changing, but they are repeated on every single page. So for instance, it's good for page numbers, any type of like graphic element that's going to be repeated on every page. But sometimes we don't want to always use it on that page. So that's how you would control that. Like for instance, you guys will be doing page numbers, but you usually don't have a page number on page 1, right? That's the cover. You don't have a page number on a cover of a magazine. So in that instance, you would just drag and drop a normal blank page over top. So there's no master page assigned on page 1 and page 8, because 8 is the back cover. Now, if I went and double clicked on the right-hand side of my master page, it's the same thing. Just want to show you here real quick. It's just on the right-hand side. So anything you would change based on what you would do on this side of the page, okay? If you want to edit anything on your master page, you actually have to double click on your master page to edit it and move it, because once you double click on your regular pages, you can't edit it. It stays there. It's almost like locked. See how I'm kind of trying to select it and I can't? So it's locked. So you have to double click on the actual master page if you want to delete it or edit it. Okay? Any questions about that? Pretty clear? Okay. I'm going to start on page 2. It's magic. But because we're going to be doing, I'm going to show you how to set up the page numbers. We're going to double click on the left-hand side of your master page first. Okay. So don't start on your actual pages. Click on your master page, the left-hand side page. We're going to start our page numbering. Now our page numbering is going to be a little weird at first, but hopefully you'll see kind of how this works. You want it to sync up with your actual page numbers. And you want to do it so that if you have 100 pages, you don't have to keep going into each page and changing the page number. This does it automatically for you. So go ahead and take your type tool, and we're going to zoom in on the very bottom here on the left master page here. And we're going to take your type tool and just kind of start where that margin is, that purple margin. And we're going to drag out just a text box that goes from the left margin to the right margin. So go ahead and align that. Okay. Now, because page numbers are usually on the outside corners, we want to start with the page number right now. But the thing is, we don't want to actually put a page number in here. We want to put a placeholder letter in here so that whenever we do apply it to your pages, it'll automatically change the letter to the page number it's assigned to. I know that sounds kind of strange, but kind of bear with me here. So with this blinking, what we're going to do, don't type anything. You're going to go up to type on your menu bar. You're going to choose Insert Special Character. And you can do a screenshot of this if you need the steps kind of figured out here. And we're going to go to Markers. And we're going to go to Current Page Number. Can everybody see that? Type on your menu bar. Insert Special Character, Markers, and Current Page Number. Okay. When you select Current Page Number, it's going to automatically type this little A out. So that A is your placeholder. So that will change to an actual page number once you save and go into your regular pages in your document. After you do that, you can just do like a space. And what we want to do is create a folio. A folio shows the page number, it shows the name of the magazine, and possibly a month and a day or a date. I'm just going to go with the date and the name of the magazine. So the name of the magazine that I'm doing is Fit Me. Actually, let me do the date first. In 2019, space Fit Me. Okay, so I just put a regular space in there. We'll kind of add tabs in here so you'll see what's going on here. All right. Let me zoom out here. So you can see I have a whole long text box. Now it's really important that you align this text box from the left side of your margin to the right, because we're going to be adding tabs in here and we want it to align perfectly. I'm going to zoom in here again. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to highlight everything we just did and we're going to create a paragraph style. Do you guys know what paragraph styles are? Okay, you do? So, okay, for those of you who don't know what a paragraph style is, there's 2 types of styles. And it's good that you know it. So if you go up to Windows, this is what you want to do. Go up to Window if you don't see it on your panel, a panel of it. Go to Styles, and you have these different style boxes. And what you need to be concerned about is paragraph styles and character styles. We're going to do paragraph style because that we're going to be applying this to more than one word. So paragraph styles are a style that you can set your body copy to and have it consistent, that same style wherever you set it. So it's kind of like a nice way to keep it consistent without always having to go back and change it manually. So you're saving that style. A character style is the same exact thing, but it has less options because it's only going to be used for maybe one word, maybe 1 or 2 words, not a whole set of words like body copy. It's only to emphasize maybe 1 or 2 words. So to bold, for instance, if you want one word bold in your article, you could create a paragraph style for that bold word. Okay, so we're going to kind of set the character style over here and work in paragraph styles for this. When doing most of the print and design, are those the only two styles that you mostly use in the field? Yes. That I've only used. Cell styles, I mean, obviously, it depends on what you're doing. You could do object styles too. I use paragraph and character style more often because I don't know. It's just kind of like the objects are kind of similar. It's just you're creating objects that you can repeat throughout your pages. I just never really use them that often. And then table, if you create tables, but I don't usually use that. So yeah, those are the two that are mostly used. Good question. Okay, so when you look at your paragraph panel, you'll always see a basic paragraph in parentheses as a default style. So don't just kind of ignore that. That will always be there. We're going to create a new style for our folio. We'll just call this our folio because it's at the bottom. So how you would do that is select your type with your, kind of do a select all. And then in your paragraph styles, click on the upper right-hand corner to choose your different assets here. And what we're going to do is new paragraph style. Now you can always click down here to create a new style as well, but there's always two ways to do one thing in these programs. But go up to new paragraph style. And can you guys see this? Let me make sure you can see this box that says new paragraph style. Can you see that? Okay. And you're just going to rename this folio so you know what it is. Leave everything here the same. And what you're going to be concerned of is on the left-hand side here, all of these different styles. So you see, this has all different types of styles that you can set with your type. It has basic character formats, and this is where you can change the font family. And then if it has a family underneath it, the font style, the size of your type, your leading, which is the space in between your body copy, kerning and tracking, that's the space in between your letters and your lines of text. It has case, so if you wanted to do like small caps, all caps, that's where you would change it. Everything else is in there. Advanced character format, you can change this. I would highly suggest just ignoring this part. You don't really have to mess with that. Indents and spacing. Is where you'll set alignment. So if you don't want left alignment, there's center, right alignment, justified. There's indents that you can place in here, space after and before paragraphs, align to a grid. We'll talk about that. There's tabs, which we'll be doing as well. But just to show you a couple things, there's also character colors. So if you wanted this particular style to have a color, like say if we pick blue, it'll be in blue. We'll choose blue for now, just for fun of it. Let's go back up to general, because those are basically the basic stuff that we're going to go over. Now I'm going to change this to, let's change it to Helvetica just for the heck of it. And I'm going to do bold. And typically a folio, you don't want this to be really big. So I'm going to do like a 10-point size for that, but it's bold, so I'm good. Let's see what else. Left justify is fine. And tabs, we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to click OK just so you can see how that is applied. Now, notice how it's not applied yet, because look, the basic paragraph style is still selected. So what we want to do is we want to select, tabs can be tricky. We want to select folio, and look how it changes it to what we just set it to. So now it's Helvetica, it's blue. If you open up your actual character box, you'll see all the assets in there that we just changed it to. Now let's say you forget to double click. This is how you would edit. Say if I want to make this smaller even yet. You can double click on your style sheet, just double click on that, and you can change the size here or change whatever you want and click OK, and it's going to change it. Now let's say you forget that you can do that. And you accidentally decide to change it as you're working on it. Watch what happens to your default, I'm sorry, your style sheet. It has that little plus sign. That's telling me that you changed something on here without doing it the right way. You need to actually double click on this and change it the right way so that it's changing everywhere that you're applying it to. So if you see that little plus sign, you know that there's an issue going on. Any questions about that? Yeah, once you have your style sheet up, once you have these style sheets set up, and you'll see as we go forward, it becomes easier. So it's not as time consuming. Any questions so far? No, you're good, you're good. We're gonna set up tabs because right now I want my page number to stay here, but I want my date and my the name of it to go to the right side. And I'm actually going to delete the space in between. Oh no, I'm going to delete. I'm going to put a little bullet point. So I just did an Alt 8. Alt Option 8 is a bullet point. Now, you don't have to do a bullet point. You could do like a straight line. You could do whatever you want to do. I'm just putting like a little divider there. So what I want this to do, I want this date and this name to go all the way and tab to this margin, but keep the page number here. So with that being said, I'm going to select it all, double click on my folio, and I'm going to go to tabs. Now this can be tricky, just kind of follow me here. So tabs, what it's showing me here is, see how I have this starting on this blue margin? That's where it's starting on 0 here. Where it's ending on the blue margin on the right-hand side is kind of where it's ending here. So what I want to do is I want to set up a Right Justified tab over here at the very right-hand corner. So I'm going to choose this Right Justified tab, and I'm just going to click one time on this ruler, and I'm going to, actually it was more than 5, so I'm going to pull it all the way to where that margin ends, right before that white arrow starts. Now, it's tricky. The thing that's tricky about tabs is you have to know how this is placed in here, how this interacts. It's a very small little arrow. When you click on it, you need to click up in the upper gray area, not just the ruler, or else it'll disappear and you'll lose it. You can always kind of move it around. Don't move this little guy. This is just where your text box is ending here. This little, and you can move it if you want, but I don't want you to move it. You just want to add this to the very right, because this is where your type will tab to on the right. You can also type in the number here if you know it, but that's pretty good. So I'm going to click OK. And with that being said, now all I need to do is put the tab in here. So I need to click right in front of where I want to tab. So I'm going to get that space in between the A and the date, get that out of there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit tab on my keyboard, and you'll see it should go right into place. If at all, like say you go past that, let me click on what, that looks good, but let's say you go beyond that little arrow. Let's say by accident you went a little bit past that. Watch what happens. See how it kind of made it jump down here? And that's really easy to do, and I just wanted to show you that. How to fix that. So just double click on that, go back to tabs, and just make sure that it's right on or right before that little arrow, and click OK, and it'll fit it right back in the spot. Okay? Any questions about that? And that's pretty much it. I do want to show you how to put a rule line above this. A rule line is a nice little dividing line that you can also set as a style. Just go ahead and double click over top of your A and your name, everything, select all. Just double click on folio now. And you're going to click on, you don't have to have this, but I just want to show you this as an option. If you want a rule, which is a rule line, go ahead and go to paragraph rules, click on rule on, If you have preview selected, you'll see it actually being applied here. And what we want to do is we want to make sure this line is thin. So I would say between 0.25 and 5, so it's not super thick. You can give it a color. I'm going to give it just blue. And then the important thing is you want to make sure that you're going to offset this. And this needs to be above, it should be above your type. So I would probably offset this at 0.1875 and click OK. Now you can see that rule line is being placed there. So it's a nice line to divide whatever is going to be up here, like body copy, that you can kind of, separate. Now I'm going to pull this down so that that rule line is right on my bottom margin here. So if I were to hide this, look, that's what it looks like. So it's just a nice little line that divides the folio from whatever's going to be above it. You don't have to have that on there. It's just something I wanted to show you. All right, so now that that's all said and done, I'm going to save this, DES243, assignment 1, first and last name. Yeah, it makes it look nice, yeah. So this is the easiest way I could tell you to copy this. You don't have to do that whole thing over again, because what we need to do is we need to make the same thing on the right-hand page. We just have to reorder the page number. So with this selected, hold down your Alt Option key and drag over copy. Just make sure, and I would suggest going up to View, and making sure that these are checked. Lock column guide, well, you don't have to have, you can have that unchecked. Snap to guides and smart guides. Those are the two things that are nice to have, because as you see, when I pulled that over, that copy over, watch what happens intuitively. See those little green lines? Those are snapping and telling me, hey, this is going to be aligned to this one. So this is right on the same baseline as this one. It's totally aligned. So it intuitively tells me where to align that. So it's just a nice, it helps. Smart guides, yeah. Now the only thing, what's wrong with this on the right-hand page? What do I need to change? What's wrong with that? No, it's good. It's even. Where's the page number at? If this is the page number on the left side, where's the page number on the right side? It should be on this side, right? Bottom right-hand corner. Yep, wrong end. So this is the easiest way I could tell you guys how to do this. All you need to do is go ahead and copy this letter. So just go ahead and highlight over it with your type tool, just the letter, and do a Command C. That's a copy. So that's if you want to do it the short or the long way, just go to Edit, Copy. No, you're allowed to answer. And then go ahead and click your cursor right after the Fit Me word here and do a Command V, which is a paste, or go to Edit, Paste. And it's going to paste that A right there where it should be. Then highlight the name of the magazine and the date, copy that. So Command C, and we're going to just delete that altogether once we copy it. Highlight where the last A is, and we're going to do a Command V, and that's a file paste. So that's the order for this. So now, yeah, there you go. So you can see that now I have a placeholder for my left-hand side page with the A and the folio's done, and then on the right side. So I'm going to save this. So my master pages for my page numbers are done. Now the one thing you have to remember is you have to have your master pages set on the pages that you want your page numbers applied to. So for instance, remember how I took away the A on the number 4 page? I need that to be put back. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop that over. So you need to have A on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 1 and 8 can be blank. Go ahead and save it. And now double click. Now we're still on our master page. So I'm going to double click on page 2, for instance. And look how page 2, that A disappears and replaces it with the page number, the corresponding page number. Same thing on here, 3. Go to page 4. They're all numbered correctly. 4, 5. So it does it for you after you create your placeholder page number. And of course, we skipped the last one and the first one. So those don't have to have page numbers. Okay. So that's how you would do page numbers using master pages. And that's kind of the gist behind master pages altogether. Any questions about that? Okay. So now, remember that folder I downloaded? It had, let's see here, Fit Me magazine. It has articles. It has everything in here that I need. So what I need to do is open up, because you're only focusing on the editorial page for right now. Go ahead and open up the editorial page. And this, did everybody leave? Oh, everybody left. Everybody's like, you know what, this is too much. It's okay. They might have something going on here. All right, so the editorial page is what you need to paste in there, and this will be page 2 and 7. So do a select all and then a copy. But before you do that, let's do a spell check. So let's go up to Tools, Spelling or Grammar, and go ahead and do a spell check. And this is purposely, some of these words are purposely spelled wrong, and there's different grammar in here that you need to change. Just hit changed. And I know you're listening to this lecture if you're doing this part before you paste it in here. And what I would like for you to do too is just read through this article. You can ignore that before you actually start designing it. Just it gives you a good idea of what you, how you should be kind of laying out your pages. You didn't make them leave, you're good. So this is where you kind of start thinking, okay, page 2 has to have table of contents, but we're not really going to be doing that yet. So I would advise just kind of leaving a space open for that. But now you're thinking about grid structure. So what I'm going to do is make sure you have your ruler set up. So go up to View, Show Rulers, and this will give you these rulers on the top and the side here. And you can always click inside and pull out your margin guides to kind of help you create maybe like a grid structure of how you're going to design this. So I'm going to kind of pull out some lines here just to kind of help me start this out. And you can do it horizontally and the other way. Let's see, we're gonna do, it's right here. So kind of formulate how you're gonna design this. Now I'm gonna leave, and I'm gonna show you this in a faint way. I'm gonna leave this area open for my table of contents. So you might wanna definitely do the same. Let me see here, let me do like a really light color so you can't really see it. Okay, so let's just say this space is designated for table of contents, and we'll be getting back to this. This is just going to be blank for now, okay? Next thing I'm going to do is take my type tool, And I'm going to go ahead and draw out my type box. Now you don't want your type box to be too wide, because once it gets too wide, like if it's this wide, for instance, and you paste in your copy, I'm going to do Command Paste. There is a rule where you don't want to go past 72 letters per line because it becomes hard to read. So the line length you have to pay attention to. So what I would do is just make this, obviously you need room for your table of contents, just make this, you know, less wide of a column here. Okay, any questions about that? So I just did one column here. Okay, so there's a little red box. I don't know if you can see that down here. And what that's telling me is, hey, we still have, there's still text in here, it's just not showing because your box isn't big enough. So what we need to do, we need to pay attention to that because we don't want any type not shown that needs to be shown. But we need to create another type box that's going to link this one to page 7, because that's where we're continuing. So this is page 2. I like that clock. We want to go to page 7. That's where it's continuing. So go ahead and double click on page 7. This is page 7 right here. Should be on the right side. And you could do the same thing. You can draw out, again, like your guides out here if you want. Keep it consistent, or you know, keep that pattern going of what you had going on before. Take your type tool and drag out just an empty box here, a type box. With that box being here, let's go back to page 2. So we're on page 7, let's go to page 2. We're gonna click on the first box and we're gonna click on that little red box down there. Just click one time. And when you click one time, it's gonna kind of show you, looks weird, looks like there's type kind of being collected here. And it's just basically saying, hey, we have type, where you're gonna put it. So we're gonna just double click on page 7 and we're gonna click right into that box that you just created. And that's gonna link this box to page 2. So anytime that you play around with this box, like make this shorter or longer, it's gonna adjust this box. So it'll kind of be connected. Okay. So now I'm gonna open up my styles, and we're gonna, this is the most important step. We're gonna go to paragraph styles again. Remember how we created paragraph styles for your folio. Now we're gonna create a paragraph style for your body copy. So we're gonna go up the right-hand corner of your paragraph style and say new paragraph style, and we're gonna name this body copy. And then again, we're gonna kind of select the basic character format, and I would suggest choosing a very classic serif font, so like Times New Roman, Adobe Garamond, something like that. That's classic and easy to read. We'll just do Times New Roman. I would suggest doing probably like a 10 points with a 14-point leading, something like that. You can see how that looks once you click on that. The only other thing you need to be aware of, now usually it's a 20% ratio between the point size and the leading. That's a nice readable ratio there. And that is the size of your type versus the leading, the spacing in between your body copy. The one thing I want you to be aware of is in the indents and spacing, you want your align to grid to be all lines. Change that to all lines. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna align all of your baselines from column to column so you don't have any shifting going on. Keep everything the same, click OK. Now in order to apply that, we need to select all in your body copy. When you select all, if it's linked, go to page 7, you'll see all that selected too. So select all is Command A, or you can go to, I always forget how it is up here. Okay, it's under edit all. Edit, select all. You want to choose that style body copy, so it's applied. Now, one thing to think of, see how my space is really spaced out here? What I have to adjust, because it looks really spaced out, is my preferences right now. Because right now my preference, my grid is too far apart. So I'm gonna go up to, if it looks like that, that's too spaced out. So go up to preferences under InDesign on your menu. Choose units and, I'm sorry, grids. And we're gonna change, mine might be different than yours. I'm gonna change this to 6 point and click OK. This is gonna change the spacing of your grid. So this is a little bit more, this is more of the size ratio that you want with your leading. Before it was too spaced out. So if that's the case, if you do yours 10 points by 14 leading and it looks really spaced out like I had it, and you have your baselines aligning, check your preferences, grids, and if it's anything above 12, I would take it down to 6 points right here. So that's basically, I'll show you what that's showing you right here. So if you go to View, Grids and Guides, and you show Baseline Grid, that's kind of changing the increments in here. So all those lines kind of change size and spacing. Okay. Any questions about that? Let me hide this. So. The next thing that I would do is create new paragraph styles for your header, your byline, and your subhead. So I would do 3 separate style sheets. Go ahead and say new style sheet, and I would name this headline. And you could do something similar. Let's do Helvetica. This can be different than your body copy for sure. We're gonna set this to being a lot bigger. Let's do like 30. And we will do color. You can actually do a color, and it keeps it consistent. Do blue. The thing that I want you to be aware of is just check this real quick. Align to grid, make sure that says none. We don't want it to, the headline, subheads, aligning to any grid. That's only your body copy. You'll have issues if that's the case. Click OK here. So I'm going to take my type tool, and I'm just going to select this headline and choose the headline area. Now let's say I would like to treat this a little differently. Let's say life, kids, and brain injury. I'm going to do a shift return here so that bumps it down. Let's say one mom's journey to be healthy. I want it to be a little different than this top part. Well, I can create a new paragraph style and just type in small headline to make it a little different, maybe even bold, but just a little smaller. You know, do something a little different. All you need to do is just set it as its own little style there. And you can even change the color if you want. You know, just double click to change that and then change the color in here. So, you know, you could do something like this. It's kind of interesting. Byline, let's click off of this and do a new paragraph style. We'll call this byline, and the byline is the author line. And that can be the same either as your body copy or your headline, depending on what you want to do. I'm going to do bold oblique, and this is usually pretty small. I'm going to do even smaller at 9 points. I'm going to keep it at black. Oops. And then I select the byline and then choose that. I might need more spacing in between here. Oops. So, let me zoom in here. It's kind of crammed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this part, the small headline, and I'm going to go to spacing, indents and spacing, and I'm going to choose space after, and I'm just going to bump this to 0.025. See how that just did a nice little space there? And I could do the same thing here with just the headline. Just bump it down just a little bit. And you can do some really cool things. Like you can add lines in here or whatever you want to do. Like, you know, play around with it, have fun. It doesn't have to be so, you know, it could be whatever you want it to be, if it works. Okay, let's do a subhead because we have subheads in here. Let's do a new paragraph style. We'll name this subhead. And once you have all these set, it'll be so much easier as you go through. You'll kind of notice. I'm going to do bold. I'm going to keep this maybe a little bit bigger, so like 12-point bold, and then just more emphasis on that. I'm going to do character color. I'm going to make that red, and I'm just going to make sure there's no alignment to grid. No, we're good. Like, okay. So anywhere where there's a subhead, like for instance this, I can choose subhead and it changes to that. Okay, and then you want to make sure you check over here if there's any subheads here. It's good. And I think I'm probably going to have to pull this out just a little bit further. Let's see how much copy I have left here. Okay, pull this down a little bit. We don't want to go too far down by the rule line, but we want to give it a little bit more space there. So I'm just kind of adjusting this based on what I see here and how much space I have here. Now this is getting a little wide. So I'm going to show you, but it looks like now I'm good to go as far as like how much copy is in here. I'm at the very bottom. I'm going to show you how to change this if I want this to be a 2-column instead of a 1-column. Very easily. Let me get rid of this here. Hold on. So I'm going to select just this, thank you, just this text box, and I'm going to go up to type. And I'm going to choose, where is it? No, not type, sorry. I always do that. I go up to object after selecting my type box, and I choose text frame options. This is where you can also change how many columns. If you're not drawing out a text column, you could change it here. So I'm going to change this to 2, and you'll see when I change the number here, it changes the column. And click OK. And that just makes it so that it's not a real wide column. It's easier to read. And now I can kind of play around with this to kind of bump this down and all that good stuff. Any questions so far about that? And you can kind of adjust your grid. You know, you typically, what designers do is they kind of play around, especially with publication design, you kind of play around with the spaces a lot. So don't feel like you're stuck with the grid that you have. Just kind of work with it, see how much text you have. You know, sometimes it's hard to see how much you have until you have it in there, especially with the type face that you choose and how much other things that you have going on. So it's all about like, you'll find yourself kind of massaging it, making it work. Just make sure that you're keeping in mind all of your baselines on every page should pretty much land on the same, during the same space. So that should land exactly where that is landing, although I think I have this on a different, pop it up a little bit. So this should be like this. So this space here from the very baseline of the bottom column is to my footer is the same here. And I'll show you it a little bit so you can see. See that space in between there? Yeah, that's the same space here. Okay, so remember when we were talking about allowing the reader to know what to do whenever, say, the next page isn't quite continuing as far as this article is concerned. It jumps to page 7. So we can let the reader know, hey, this is continuing on page 7. I'm going to bump this up one more line because of that. So leave enough space down here, and you can do your own little type box at the bottom, a separate one. And type in here, continue on page 7. You can create your own style sheet for this. So new paragraph style, continue copy, continue page copy. And you can make this small. It could be like 8 point. And I'm going to make this align right for this particular style here. Continue page. And just make sure you have enough space in between here so that it's not all crammed in there. But it kind of gives the reader kind of knowledge that, yeah, this continues on and just doesn't end here. You do not have to write the same thing on page 7. I see a lot of students kind of add continued from page 7. You don't have to do that for page 7. Another thing that I wanted you to be aware of is, and we have bulleted copy here. Make sure that you don't have a huge space in between these. It should be, I would delete those spaces. Usually when you have a Word file, the spacing doesn't go in right. So I would delete what's in there before the bulleted copy if you have any. Go ahead and select that bulleted copy. Let's create a new paragraph style for that. And we're just going to make this, we're going to name this bulleted copy. Anywhere that there's bulleted copy, this is the style that you can set it. So I'm going to make this bold to stand out. I'm going to hit tabs. I'm going to give this a nice little tab. I'm going to choose the first arrow, which is left justified. And we're going to put the tab right. And we can change this. I'm going to put around like 3. Actually, I'll do 2 tabs. I'll do where the bullet point can tab in and then also the word. And I'll show you what I mean by that. And click OK. And I'm going to hit bulleted copy. And in order for the tabs to be placed, I got to put my tabs in there. So I'm going to hit tab. Okay, this is not working. Hold on one second. Let me make sure I have this in right. Did this just make a copy? Bulleted copy. Okay, I must have, oh, copy. I thought that made a copy of my copy, sorry. Go back to tabs here. Let me take out the 1. I'll just put in the 1 left justified. I'm gonna click OK. I think I'm getting this confused here. Very interesting. It's not allowing me to tab this. Okay, I think it's because the tab is not set correctly. So I'm going to highlight this, go back to my tabs. I think because I'm zoomed out so far. Let me zoom back out here. There we go. Go to tabs again. Okay, yeah, I have to go. For some reason, my ruler line was showing way to the left here. So I got to pull this to the left. So I was right. I just have to do it a little bit to the left. So I have to make sure my zero's visible here. So I set them kind of close together and click OK. And then all I have to do is hit my tab and then it should set it. Okay. A little tricky, but that's kind of nice because you can kind of play around with the offset of it. So anywhere there's a tab, you can apply that setting to. Okay, the next thing is your imagery, which you need to have all the images applied in here. Let me find my folder. So I'm going to go to editorial images. You have 2 images for this particular editorial article. You have this woman walking and you have the brain puzzle pieces. So it's up to you on how you want to put this. You could actually start it in the beginning if you want something to draw the viewer to. I just need to bring this down a little bit. Just know anytime that you adjust this, oops, you're adjusting the copy as well on page 7. So you might want to take a look at page 7 and make sure everything looks okay. All right, now I have some room up here. It's completely up to you how you want to do this. You could do a square, you could do a circle, whatever you decide to do. You can even draw with the pen tool. Just place a rectangle frame tool. Go ahead and go to your articles, images, and choose your image that you think would work best in here. Go ahead and file place that. It probably will paste in a little bit big. So once you do that, go ahead and go up to object fitting, fill frame proportionally, and that'll kind of proportionally width-wise fit this in. If you double click on it, it's going to create a red box to say, hey, this is the image that's not showing, and you can pull this up and down if need be. But you can do all kinds of stuff. You can create, like for instance, with the pen tool, like say if you wanted a really interesting shape, let's say you wanted to do something different. And I'm going to do a shape here. And this is just using the pen tool. If you're familiar with the pen tool, you might want to do something like this. It's just like an Illustrator. If you want to change it in any way, take your direct selection tool and go ahead and change it here. I might actually let me add a point right here. This is a little advanced, so if you don't know the pen tool really well, just forget this. I just wanted to show you guys, whoever is, if you're really good at the pen tool, you might want to try this. Okay, so now that I created this closed shape, I can do Command D, and I can actually place the same image in here in this area. If it works, if it looks like it works for this particular area and you like it, then you can do something like that too. If it doesn't work, try something else. Just something I wanted to show you that is possible. You don't have to just do a rectangle. Okay. Any questions about that? No? Okay. Show more of the head here. All right. That might not be the best shape for this, but hey, it's something different. Okay. So I'm going to go with, let's see, maybe I'll probably just go with let's do, you can even do circles. Oops. If you want to try something like that, make it work with the image that you have. And then you can also apply different styles to this. So if you go up to Object Effects, you can put it like a slight drop shadow to this, a subtle one. Let me pull this back a little bit. Just to let it pop a little bit. Pull this down a little bit more here. Something like that to kind of pull the reader in more. Okay, let's look at page 7 and see what we got going on here, because we have one more image that we have to place in here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this in just slightly. Now be mindful of how everything is flowing, and I'll show you this in a second here. Let's say for this one, I'm going to go with just utilizing all of this as 2 columns here. And I'm going to put a circle of her picture here. You don't want to make, you want to make sure this picture isn't too big where it's kind of interrupting your copy too much here. Let me post her in here. But if you do something like this, obviously you want the type to not be affected. So you have to put a text wrap on this. So how you would do that is you would go up to Window, choose text wrap. And what a text wrap does is allow you to put a safe zone around your image so that the copy is pushed off of the image. There's no copy behind the image. So go ahead and choose in the panel, wrap around bounding box, or, and that's just if you want to do it around the square, but since I have a circle, I'm going to wrap it around the object shape. And then I'm going to choose my safe area. If you click up to increase this space area, you can see it's kind of increasing around here as a light blue line. So you can see that now, anytime I move this, it's going to kind of mold and shape wherever I kind of am placing this. So make sure it's not affecting the columns of type too much. If this becomes too small, you know, there's only 1 or 2 words, it becomes harder to read. So make sure you have enough column space to use something like this in this effect. Okay, I would say, you know, I could probably get her a little bit bigger here. I have enough space down here. Kind of try to balance this out so you don't have a lot of white space left down below here. And, you know, I think that looks pretty good. You can have some white space left. And you can kind of play around with the flow of the text around it by just shifting it up and down. But this looks pretty good. You know, there's just some space left here, but it looks good. The image isn't getting too far into the text where it's making it hard to read. It's not stopping the flow of text, but it's interesting. I can go ahead and put another drop shadow on this like I did before, just to kind of keep it consistent with the other one. Just like a very subtle drop shadow, make it pop a little bit and make it consistent. The other thing to kind of be mindful of is how your text flows. If there are bad breaks, hyphens, too many hyphens, or widows, and or you can steal it. Or you know, like for instance here, there's a hyphen here right before the page goes to page 7. So what I would do is go up here. You can either choose hyphens in your preferences too, to have, you know, a certain number of hyphens. I always forget where that's at. So I just showed that earlier. Advanced type. There's a hyphens area where you can say how many hyphens you can have in a line. I'll have to look at this again because I can't remember. And if you know it off by heart, go ahead and help me out here. High quality, interface, general. There is a spot. I thought it was an advanced type, but it looks like it's not in there. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. But there is a way you can say, oh, I only want so many hyphens in a line of text in a row. But because this is what I would call bad break, just because it's a hyphen and then it's going to a separate page. So I'm going to go up to the in the beginning of the, and I'm going to do a shift return, and I'm going to do another shift return. That's going to bump it all the way down to, so there's no weird break there. So just shift return is a soft return. So it keeps the style that you set it to. It's not a hard return, but you're kind of bumping that down. A widow is any single copy, like say if I only had this word healthy on this very last line, that's a widow. You usually don't want that. You want to avoid that. You want to have at least 2 or 3 words on the last line for balance. And an orphan is when, like, say if this continued on this page, An orphan would be one line of text, period, and then the next paragraph starts when you have first column and second column like this. So an orphan is just one line of text on a completely different column, a new column, where it's just one line of text. That's a bad break. You want to have at least 2 lines if you go continue on. So that would be like this. If I were to go in here and put a period after pass, that this would be an orphan. And we would want that. We want at least 2 lines before it ends and a new paragraph starts. Okay, so just be aware of those type of things in your article. Make sure you have enough space in between. Another thing to keep your spacing consistent, because right now I have actual spaces after each of these paragraphs. I would actually delete these spaces out. Just go ahead and delete all these out. And then what we would set is in your body copy, just double click on, oh, let me cancel that. Double click on your body copy and go to your spacing, indents and spacing, and what you want to do is space after, and this will keep it consistent after every paragraph, new paragraph. This would keep it consistent. So I would probably do like a 0.25, a space after body copy, and that automatically puts your spacing in here. Okay, so you have some weirdness going on with these though. For some reason, this bulleted copy got screwed up here. Okay, so this set. So the bulleted copy is should also be treated as space after too, but it's kind of screwing up my. Let me see if I have a line to grid on this bulleted copy here. Hold on. All lines. Yeah. I want this set at 0.25. But there must be spaces after this. Let me do a return. There we go. That's what's being screwed up. There's actually hard returns after each one of these. So that's what's kind of being screwed up there. And why isn't this shifting right here? Let me just check out one more thing. This should be on the same baseline, and these are not matching up. Okay. So in this instance, I didn't have a, so if I remember how I told you, do not set headlines and subheads, do not align to grid. So I had that not aligning to grid, and that's what was messing up. I had it set to none. That's what was messing up my baselines there. So as long as I have those spaces that I just created, go ahead and set just your subheads to none. I'm sorry, to all lines. That way you don't have weird shifting in your baselines. Your headlines can be treated differently though. Your headlines should not be aligned to a grid. So these should be aligned to none. And you'll know if you have it aligned to a grid, you'll see the spacing issues. So you'll see that kind of being affected. And that's about it. So you should have, I have, besides the basic paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 paragraph styles set already. Now, when we go forward in the next weeks, we will have less work to do because we have all of these paragraph styles set. And again, this is just table of contents space. So you don't have to have a color block here. It's just to show you that this is where the table of contents will be. So don't forget to have a space open for that. This is a really good space to have, like a 1/3, maybe a little bit more than 1/3 space for table of contents. We're not going to do this yet until later, but just have that space available. Any questions about that or any of this that I went over? We're going to be wrapping it up here because I'm kind of going over time. Looks like I have to make her a little smaller. Get the copy in here. When you're done, if you have any questions, we're going to save this out as a, let me see what it asks in here. Okay, you're going to package your file. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to File, Package when you're done. And this is kind of showing you a breakdown of all the fonts and links, colors, images, and inks in your file. Just hit Package. And you're going to name this whatever it says to name it in the submission area. Make sure all these are checked, including a PDF, and go ahead and check the smallest file size PDF and hit Package. And what this will do is create a nice little package for you to click on. Go ahead and click on that package folder. Click on your PDF, open that up, take a look at it. You're going to have, go to view. What we want to do is we want to show to view scrolling. If you don't have it shown as like a double page spread option. And go ahead and just make sure your page number is on the right side. On every page, you have, everything looks good on page 2. All your page numbers are set up good, well. And then on page 7, it concludes, nothing is missing here. Everything is good. If that looks good, then you're going to zip this. So you're going to do a Control click, compress, or select that folder and go up to File, Compress. And this is the file that you're going to submit for Project 1, Assignment 1. Any questions about that? It's a lot of information. If you have any questions, we'll be meeting tomorrow. We're going to go over your assessment 1 as well tomorrow. So if you're having any issues, have any questions, we can go over it tomorrow as well. Same time, same place. Yep. And that concludes what we pretty much are doing today. Tomorrow, like I said, we'll go over your assessment. That'll be an ad that you're going to recreate, so it won't take as much time as today. But just read through those 3 client profiles and decide on which one you're going to go with. And hopefully, hopefully you'll be good after this lecture or demonstration. Oh no, I don't know. I haven't checked my email yet since I started class, I think so. I'll take a look. Oh, okay. Awesome. All right, I'll look forward to that. All right, have a great day, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow, hopefully. If not, I'll see you on the discussion boards. All right, thank you. Have a good one. I know you are, Christine. Thanks for coming in. I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully.